Good afternoon, everybody. Mark Cleghorn here for the Photographer Academy, and today we're in part 9 of our 10 steps to starting a boudoir photography business. And again, I'm all alone, so Jay's not actually with us today. So again, if you've got questions, get them into the question panel. We'll do those live, as we say, going throughout the whole session. Basically, if you've got any problem in kind of hearing or seeing the slides, then you should be seeing a slide now, which is the intro slide, which is the 10 steps. If not, or you can't hear me, then basically I would restart your webinar itself as far as the join in, so on. You should actually get going from there. And if you're watching on a mobile device, I believe that sometimes because my webcam on, it might actually block the slide. So just kind of swipe me either left or right, and basically you'll just see the screen and things. So today's session is not about the fuller figure. It is about the younger client. It's about looking at the boudoir clientele. We've talking about who is our avatar as far as the kind of the business is concerned, and obviously some of it will be a younger type of clientele, and they're going to slightly demand a different type of boudoir photography than the more kind of sophisticated or the more elder kind of clientele as we've got going through. So as long as we don't paint everybody with the same brush as far as our creativity, our imagination is concerned. The first things first, as far as the younger clientele is, we've got to make sure that we're kind of making sure that our creative photography elements are being brought in no matter who is in front of us. It doesn't matter if it's a young clientele model like, or it's kind of a retired 55, 65-year-old woman. It doesn't matter if they're a catwalk kind of thin model compared to a fuller figure. It doesn't matter. What we've got to do is ensure that we're looking at what fits best for that client in front of us. So as far as the kind of the younger client is concerned, what I used to refer to as club girl, she is basically a different girl than she has ever been. So she's similar but different in so many ways. Okay, so let's look at the kind of the do's to begin with of kind of club girl before we get to look at series of a shoot flow for you, some ideas of actually what to look out for and what to avoid, as well as kind of looking at some workshop images again, so we can look at the pros and the cons, the positives and the good things that other photographers have shot during a workshop with me over the years and things really. So let's look at the do's first, okay? So encouraging you to shoot from all angles depends on the body shape. So last week we talked about the fuller figure and what to do, and shoot from the side and shoot from above and so on with it, okay? But again, it depends on body shape. But as a rule of thumb, a younger clientele is going to be slightly fitter, more kind of athletic perhaps than a 65-year-old woman on the majority of the time. We're not talking about the kind of the 10, 20% of high fitness, high energy kind of clientele, whether they're young or old, it doesn't matter. What we're talking about is the percentage of clientele that we've got to prepare ourselves for. Okay, so shoot from all angles, depending on their model kind of body shape as well. Lingerie sets would be encouraged. That would be probably something that many might not have fully invested into, but they've been looking for an excuse, or they haven't worn them for a while, so it's a good excuse to get them out. Encouraging them to look at more of an edgy fashion of a lingerie, especially with a high-rise pant or a high-rise bodysuit and things really. We'll give you some examples now in a second. Definitely oversized things like a jumper or a shirt rather than a fitting shirt and things really. Obviously depends on body size again, but that kind of part of that partner's t-shirt, jumper, cardigan, whatever it be. High-waisted shorts depends on their styling and their fashion, so a slightly different kind of dressing for success, kind of getting them ready. Designer brands should be encouraged and applauded and celebrated. Okay, we'll talk about that now in a minute. Don't forget, celebrate the curves, because today's younger client is probably a slightly fuller figure than they ever have been before when we look on the high street of body shapes and so on. We're still going to be controlling the boob, whether it is a full or a slight boob, to create a good shape of cleavage and control. So again, they'll know obviously what they're going to wear, especially for women with a fuller bust, as far as the full control and what they would wear on the likes of a kind of a beach and so on. Then we're looking at posing ideas. So things like encouraging now, because of the fitness level, arching of the back. So even with a fuller figure, younger clientele, we can definitely encourage a little bit more of an athletic use of the body shape. Highlight what they love at all times, as well as what their partners love. With the younger kind of boudoir, nude tends to not be on the kind of the things to do, or even the implied nude. Implied topless, yes, is a thing. Your use of material will help us create those images anyway. Chairs and props can be used to exaggerate. I've got a shoot flow for you to actually kind of show all this off anyway. Making sure that we're using the likes of legs bent and pointed toes and feet to exaggerate the length of the leg. And the kind of the new updated element from Club Girl now is shoot for an Instagram usage, as well as use ideas from influencers themselves how to inspire or change the shoot from the basic to more what they kind of like and follow. A perfect example is the likes of Kylie Jenner. I was asking the girls who here work in the office kind of thing about the different types of woman. You know, we've got two women here who are 25 years old and things really. I was kind of discussing things with them, how they think the kind of the changes in the ideas and the concepts and everything else with it. Well, this type of client, the influencers, is definitely having an influence on that 18 to 23, 24-year-old more than ever before, celebrating the curves, celebrating the body. They're probably posting more now than ever before of themselves on their Instagram feeds. So again, as far as what you are possibly thinking about to photograph to what you actually will be photographed, I think will be determined from the likes of who they're following. We talked about a high pant line and everything else that's concerned. This is what we're on about. There's a bodysuit and swimsuit and lingeries and all that kind of thing as well with it. But again, you know, this kind of exaggerated kind of bodysuit is pretty much there. So as long as we're aware that the younger clientele of today is probably going to be looking to be more adventurous up into lingerie level than ever before, they are still probably as restrictions on kind of going to semi-nude and nude. Those things are not really being celebrated, so hence it's not a usual thing to be seen. So the confidence element of what they post and everything else is going to be slightly different per woman, obviously. But again, we've just got to take these as influencers. So when you start to see some of my clients that have come through over the past years, and you start to see what they're influenced from, you can see there's a real Instagrammy kind of look and feel to some of the younger clients that are coming through, as well as some of their kind of outfits that they wear. As far as the kind of the implied nude is concerned, tends not to be it. Still tends to be a pant line and everything else with it and things really. But as far as the kind of the look and the feel is concerned, what you're really looking at is this wow factor. When people are looking at their Instagram feeds and they are going to be posting these more than ever before, we've got to really look at what and how they're going to be celebrated. This girl in front of us is Rachel. She was one of the first models that we hired for a couple of days when we were just about to launch Photo Training for You, the original name of the academy. And this was the very first time she'd ever done a lingerie shoot. And if you haven't gone backwards in time to see what a nervous real woman looks like on her very first lingerie shoot, I definitely encourage you to go and kind of watch this, because even though she'd done a little bit of kind of product showing in stores and everything else with it, she'd really never done any photographic modeling at all. And the lingerie she was encouraged to do, in fact, by one of her friends who was originally booked by us to actually do it, but unfortunately she had to back out because she wasn't very well, and Rachel filled in for us. So the first things first is accept at the beginning of the shoot, the client is still going to be as nervous no matter what age they are, okay, right the way through until you probably get through two-thirds worth of the shoot. In that last third, you're probably going to be a little bit more fun, a little bit more creative, a little bit more edgy and so on, but you really want to actually kind of bring it alive. Now, when you think about these images are now, 13 years old, and as far as the influence in images, these are images that could be used today on a model or a client's Instagram feed and things, really, and basically to get reaction, the likes and everything that everybody else is going after as such. So again, the good news is, on trend, look at what we're trying to actually create, look at what we're trying to actually create for. So in other words, don't shoot the pout, don't forget to prepare them for the shoot styles by looking at Instagram, looking at Pinterest, looking at your Dressing for Success and so on. Make sure they're just not bringing in standard bra and pants. Don't forget for you to get creative, at least at the last third of your shoot. Don't forget to encourage and compliment the client in every step of the way. Just because she's the most amazing looking woman that you might have seen, just because she's a younger kind of clientele, it doesn't mean they come there with a confidence level at all with it. And again, probably an older kind of client is at a stage of their lives where they're going, do you know what, I'm in this for the fun, let's just enjoy it, and they kind of push themselves. A younger client tends to actually kind of err on the place of caution rather than kind of, oh, sod it, let's just do it. Okay, so remember to encourage and compliment even the kind of the younger type of clientele. Just don't think it's because they look beautiful and they got amazing fitness figures because they're going to the gym every day or whatever it would be, that they don't need the compliments all the way through. Don't forget to ask them at their booking stage who they follow on Instagram. And by doing that, you can start to see already kind of what they're looking at, what they're pushing it and so on with it. And don't forget to ask them about their partner, especially what their partner likes about them, whether that's before the shoot or actually during the shoot itself with it. Okay, so if you're kind of thinking about people don't want to be short, age groups, whatever it was, I kind of just picked agent provocateur, and I didn't go for their model shots. I actually went for their tagged images. Okay, so this is where people are tagging themselves in photographs. And I always find this the interesting part, is because obviously women of all age groups are tagging themselves into major brands to kind of encourage those brands to look at them and obviously try and follow them or whatever it be. But I think this is a really good way as well to look at the girl next door and how she sees herself and how she's willing to actually celebrate herself online as well. So like I was saying to you, as far as the goals of the influencers, they're doing their jobs for us as boudoir photographers, as they're encouraging women of all sizes, shapes and ages to celebrate themselves more than ever before and things, really. Okay, so again, you can kind of scroll through and get a good idea on kind of what the modern young woman is doing today and how they are kind of celebrating it. Obviously, the agent provocateur tends to be a little bit more expensive lingerie designer brand and so on. Hundreds and hundreds of pounds for a lingerie set. But what can you kind of inspire them to? So I would say that if you were looking to get a really good idea and encourage a little bit more of an edginess to the likes of the younger clientele, point them in the direction of the likes of these tagged images and get them to screenshot them and share those with you, the images that they really, really like, because you'll just be amazed at how far a client wants to go, but doesn't really know how to do it. So at least if you've got some ideas to work from, this will really help you actually on the day. So when you're kind of then setting up the shoot plan for the boudoir, remember to get the questions in as we're going along, please, so we can kind of answer them together at the end. Yeah, so kind of really get them through. I put together a little bit of a shoot plan for you using Kelsey's images. Kelsey's our kind of our studio model, as it were. She's used by us quite a lot because she has a girl next door kind of attitude. She's an extras actor in the likes of soaps and films and so on with it, but she is also a part-time model. So good for us. Good for us in a way that she has a restrictive of what she shoots and what she doesn't shoot. She first came to us at 20 years of age. She's 25 now. So basically we've seen her change as a woman. We discussed quite a lot with Kelsey during the time as well about not just her, but about her friends and how their kind of ideas are and how they perceive her imagery of boudoir and how they were perceived coming in for a shoot and so on with it. So in addition to actually being a model, she's also for us a kind of an insight into the girl on the high street, at least the girl on the high street within a 20-mile radius of our studios and things really, but a kind of a good age. Combine that with two other women here, one a young mum, who work for us, we can basically start to paint a picture of this modern woman on the high street today, this club girl, so we can start to actually formulate a plan. So things like show less, inspire more. So in other words, kind of give the idea of actually she's showing a lot. I'd always start with covered up. So whether it's the shirt against the light, with the light, then actually using some material of some kind before we start to undress, Then looking at body parts and using the lingerie that they bring for different images. Just don't settle into like 2 or 3 different kind of sets of lingerie for not a reason. But if she needs to whip off and kind of change into a different pant for a better butt shot, or one thing and another, better bra shot, one's a bit too sheer for the front, but it's great for a back shot, whatever it would be, then again, you know, get into the habit of getting them to actually change and fast and so on. They're still going to need control of body shape. Remember, I'm talking about Club Girl a minute, which is basically Kelsey's kind of body figure. So even though the girl on the high street today is it's common knowledge, it's a fuller figure than it's ever been before, at least in UK. So we can actually prepare for the shoot with a slightly fuller figure clientele in mind. All right, we still usually try and train with the classic client to be, as it were. So if I'm beginning off, which is obviously what this series is really designed for, if I'm beginning off, I just don't need pretty young things coming through. I need the different types of clientele kind of come in front of my camera so I can learn, I can sculpt, I can shape, and basically understand what I've got to adjust during the course of the shoot to actually fit the figure that is in front of me, rather than tarring everybody with the same brush and things really. Okay, so as far as the kind of the laying on the side goes the same, the top knee towards the bed, then actually the rolling over more towards the bust, but kind of still pushing that front knee high to actually expose more towards the groin, but more importantly, to give us a great bum shape. Again, these are all techniques, but however, if Kelsey was the fuller figure girl of today, as it were, on the high street, more often than not, I'm going to have to do the full roll or use material to actually just disguise the gravity of the stomach rather than actually anything else. So remember, everything we are doing when we're shooting lingerie, especially if it's bra and pants, is we're fighting gravity the whole time. It doesn't matter what body shape it is, we are fighting gravity. Very easy to shoot when somebody is a gym bunny and they're kind of, really fitness orientated and so on. Even Kelsey and I were discussing this last week. I said, did you find that your body shape changed during lockdown? And when we looked at you as our lockdown model, so I was on about lockdown 1, so, March to kind of the summer of 2020, and actually then looking at December through January, February as our lockdown model, did you find that you had to start to prepare yourself more, your body ready for lingerie shoots? And she said, absolutely. She said, I needed to. I realized as soon as I became your lockdown model, then I really did need to tone myself back up again, because without a doubt, if there's no work, you let yourself go a little bit more kind of thing with it. So that was good to hear. So as far as the body shape is concerned, don't be afraid to kind of change slightly the perspective, the animation, the creative, even change in the likes of your apertures and so on, to kind of just really give you that little sense of modernism. In the same way, perhaps the post-production, the burning out, the out of focus, all those kind of things. You've really got to really understand about what is your style for younger boudoir compared to the kind of the more classic kind of mother clientele. I see a lot of boudoir photographers and photography where, as I said, they basically treat everybody the same. And I don't believe everybody is the same. They all deserve the same care. They all deserve the same creative. However, there are some clients who demand more edginess, and those who naturally kind of become into a 50 Shadesy kind of look and feel. And I think the likes of the 50 Shades films has helped us bring in a little bit more of a different type of image. In fact, last week during the session, can't remember if it's available yet or when it's going to be available, but I found myself doing almost a 50 shade style of image. We'll talk about it next week, in fact, but a 50 shade style of image without planning. It naturally developed in, and that was just through an idea, and we developed it. And again, it was so good. When Kelsey's back in this Wednesday again, I want to do it again to kind of improve on my posing, my animation, and so on with it. Okay, so it's about kind of how we're changing things. We talked about last week about the fuller figure and the likes of an all-in-one or a corset and bodysuit and things will really help to control the body. We shouldn't discourage that from the likes of the boudoir younger clientele as well. But remember, what you're going to end up with is a kind of an undressing, a flow from boudoir to implied nude, in fact. So we've got to really kind of take that from one place to another. There are a few films already on the Photographer Academy that you can go and see, from the boudoir to nude and the flow. And we tend to do those with a younger client model base to show you how to do it. It will naturally happen if you've got the right discussions going on with a slightly older clientele, because they tend to be a little bit more daring than a younger clientele. And I think a perfect example of that, if you've ever walked down a nudist beach in the likes of the Canary Islands, you're more often than not going to see a 65-year-old naked plus-size woman and guy walking down the beach than you are a 21-year-old long-legged blonde Swedish kind of couple coming down the beach. Yeah? And that's just because of this body conscious. So don't presume that even though the clientele is more willing to actually shoot in lingerie than ever before, it doesn't mean they're more willing to unwrap themselves than ever before. That we still need to actually discuss with the client exactly what is them. Things like the pillows, things like the sheets will always allow us to actually disguise or make it look like the likes of the implied nude. This is where the high pants, in fact, is really good, or a very thin thong. and to actually kind of really kind of pull it up high. But a high pant will actually pretty much disguise. And even with a strapless bra on here, she could actually look like she is nude in the bed and everything else with it and things really. So again, it's kind of the yin and the yang. The yang is the implied or the kind of the reveal and so on, whereas the yin is actually the hiding, the disguising, the implied more than anything else. So this is where the baggy shirts that we began off with and the cardigans and so on, like we see now, really does add in towards the shoot itself. And the likes of a cardigan or a shirt is a great way to, in the flow, to actually move between losing the bra or not with it and things really. So again, this is a disguise and things. Remember to focus in, like we're saying about as far as the kind of the parts of the body there, their partner likes, using materials, their kind of how it fits. You've seen recently, as far as the kind of the series that we've been making quite live on the Academy, because we've been in 6 weeks of Boudoir, we're not hanging on to huge amounts of Boudoir films that we're creating with the likes of Kelsey. We're dripping them in as fast as we can for you, but not to obviously swamp out the site and things. So as far as the kind of the butt and the back shot is concerned, this is a really good shot as well. If you've got a client who is into implied as well, or a little bit more kind of edgier kind of lingerie with it, then you can actually really make some great images, and the likes of a table, the bed will actually kind of show it off and things really. Fitness levels I mentioned before, especially for a client who really is toned or a little bit strong, especially if they can take the balance in the heel. So in fact, the difficult part about this image is keeping the balance on the heel whilst basically being able to drop the butt down and keep this fantastic kind of almost W effect kind of coming through the image. And again, if it's an upside down shot, you can see the W from the leg, bottom left-hand corner, going up to the knee, down towards the bottom, up towards the boob, and then the bed itself is the bottom of the W. So again, you've got this lovely kind of up and down kind of shape, but it's a great way to actually show off. Now, if you can shoot the likes of this image, now, don't forget, even though I'm talking about the younger model or the younger client here, we can still have the kind of the Jim Bunny 55-year-old client without any trouble able to do this shot. And you'll soon realize when your discussions or whatever it is, even in their questionnaire beforehand, you can really get to understand what you're going to be able to actually do with the client before they even kind of step through the door and things really. So even though I'm talking about the younger client, we're talking really possibly about the fitter body or the body shape and so on with it. So then as far as even from that kind of shape, when they've got balance onto heels, we can then actually start to shoot quick succession of images from one thing to another. And just by using the edge of furniture like a bed or a chaise or a chair, we can kind of really rotate with it and things really. We're doing a series on Wednesday that we're shooting, and it's all about the butt, it's called. So it's looking at a variety of butt images that you can shoot pretty much with any body, obviously if they celebrate the butt. So it's kind of a real flow of 12 images that you can kind of get some ideas from and things really. Think about how it would look if it was a fashion style of image. So things like this with a little bit of a spotlight in my hand. This could either be done like with a D-Light 1 with a honeycomb grid on, or it could be a mirror reflecting some sunlight from in the room and so on with it. This can really create some great images. You can even use a light pointing away from the subject, fully raw flash as it were, and redirect that with the likes of a small kind of mirror, makeup mirror that you can direct back actually onto the client, so you can create your own kind of dynamic and things really. But look at how color is playing itself within the scene to either complement or contrast against what she has on. I do like drama light. I like that dramatic shadow and so on. I also like to use the likes of the frou-frou skirts, especially with some kind of body shapes. If a client says, I love my tummy, but I hate my butt or I hate the top of the legs, then a frou-frou skirt is brilliant because that just comes in just below the belly or the belly button. And from there, then I can actually shoot to actually really show off the body without kind of worrying about kind of bringing some of the other elements in that she doesn't like about herself. But thinking about that little bit more dynamic lighting as well. Great shape as far as the inverted W again, but now we've actually into the real W. So you can see we've got the bottom down to the knee, up towards the top of the foot in the middle, back down again, and then off towards the other foot. So we've got this W, or what I refer to as the signature W, because you've got that lovely line coming in, like it's joining on from another letter before we go down, up and down again and things. So this is a really great image, but pretty much anybody who's a kind of a slim fitting figure will be able to create this without any real post-production work on the stomach. The one thing I've got to worry about is if I do this image and I forget to get the client to suck in the stomach, gravity will take hold of the belly no matter what. And it's very hard to kind of suck in the breath whilst in this pose and things really. So again, quick way, point the toe, point the foot, point the butt up. And basically what they've got to do here is either move the legs towards the, so almost kind of kneeling crawl, as it were, up towards the torso, or they've got to start to push their body line backwards towards the actual legs and so on. So again, a really good image in the flow as such. Again, coming off the heel, so if possible, with the fitter, fuller figure, you can still do this shot. But some clients, if they can't hold the pose for long because they're in a half kneel position here, this is a good way, especially when we've got pants on, to really kind of show off the butt shape. We've also got a great way to control the fleshiness of the actual bottom as well. But just doing the implied undoing of the actual bra kind of gives a storytelling element as well and things. Shooting from above, like we talked about, shooting from low across the stomach line, remembering to suck in, shooting from the 3/4 height as well, and then obviously getting the client to either be with or against the light, depends on the kind of look. From the bottom of the bed or from the bottom of the couch, looking up towards the head with a high viewpoint and a 50mm lens, the 24-105 kind of lens will exaggerate the length of the leg. It's also a great way to actually emphasize the bottom, but remembering to kind of higher that top knee, and remember, if it bends, you bend it. So you bend an ankle, a knee on both legs. You bend the elbow, the wrist, the shoulder, the neck. You bend it all the way through and things really to actually create the dominance. So as far as that's concerned, you should now have a really good idea of a flow. When we get into the implied level, this really does depend on the girl. You're going to find that the younger clientele, the majority of the time we're on about here, not the exceptions to the rule, okay? So the majority of the time, they're probably going to want to be covered more than uncovered. But if we are going to cover, you know, when we're using or covering the boobs, it's either going to be the cup. So that's one hand over its corresponding breast. We're going to do the cross cup, which is basically just actually the hand go into the opposite boob, or we're going to do the Pringle or the Macarena. So it's kind of the cross arms going over to the opposite shoulders. Like if those of me watching it live on the webcam, I've just demonstrated for you. All right. So apologies for that. I've got control of my breasts, as it were. Anyway. Again, this will also help us kind of shape the cleavage a little bit more as well. Don't worry about pants. As far as if a client wants to keep on the pants, it's not a problem at all. Even on this image, in fact, you're seeing a kind of, I forget the exact terminology for it, but it's like a braless bra. So in fact, it's a fleshy kind of tone to the client's own bra. They're about £5 or £6. Definitely don't buy them for yourself. they stick on. So it kind of, so I'm not sure if you can see, it's quite light here, but you using the likes of my Gaussian blurs, very soft action, this will pretty much bleach it out anyway, but we can even add any more on. Of course, if that's what she's going to use, that's what she's going to use. Where possible, we want to just cover the nipple. So nipple covers or the likes of, again, these girls are used to these things. Remember that, because they're available off the shelf in the likes of H&M and Topshop and Primark and everything else. They nipple covers are available off the shelf, so they're used to actually doing it. To if they are going without a t-shirt or a thin dress or whatever it would be, so the nipple doesn't kind of show through. So even that can actually give them a confidence, because it's amazing as far as the breast is concerned. You would think it would be the whole breast that they're really concerned about, but for some reason it's the actual nipple itself that they need to actually feel that they need to cover. And obviously that's the likes of Instagram and Facebook and so on with this, so we've got to have them covered. Butt shots we talked about, but kind of creating the lovely butt shots. So don't be afraid to use the likes of big color behind, the window light itself, dramatic hard lighting. A set of heels will always really help a butt shot by design. A clenching of the butt is best probably for most women, but not everybody's the same. And again, crossing of the heels can actually work as well and things really. So again, think about how the flow can really kind of great. I love this shot. It's one of our kind of changing kind of screens and things. It's just used for fun in the shoot really, or a background, but it can also be used as a bit of a fun element. There are kind of different connotations to this. I mentioned about frou-frou skirts and things really as well. This is an exaggerated one. This is more like a can-can frou-frou. So a little bit of color, a little bit more of what we would refer to my generation as kind of an FHM styling, but then going into the kind of the perfume style of ad, kind of actually bringing it together. Okay, so as promised, let's do a quick image review from one of the shoots on a workshop day of mine with photographers. So they're from a mixture of photographers who attended the 1 or the 2 day workshop. They all got to photograph the same woman. They all uploaded what they feel are their best images into that woman's gallery as well. So there's not going to be hundreds and hundreds of images, but they are uploading their best photographs. That's the important thing to emphasize here. What we are seeing are, from the photographer's point of view, their best images, okay? So the kind of the first image, the one on the left-hand side, I would say the first things first is that by turning the body to the profile position and without any control of the boobs, in other words, using the arms to cross even below across the torso, that would have helped quite a flat bust create more shape. If the photographer had turned her slightly towards me more, so just to see the second nipple a little bit, if it was visible, would have given a better shape. In comparison, the next image on the right, she's too flat on. I think they've been lucky with a little bit of the window light, just creating a very, very soft shadow on the cleavage to kind of just give a little bit of shape. But without that, it's too flat and basically not really adding anything into the field. Plus, of course, the whole torso is flat on. So it doesn't really kind of show off the girl more. What I would say as well, that this session is a bridal boudoir setup that we kind of created by a window light. Next shot here, they've obviously gone for the details. I quite like these, and I really like the one on the left-hand side. Well, I like them both, to be fair. I like the one specifically on the left-hand side. I've probably cut more of the chin, the neckline off, and just to show a little bit below the bust. So in other words, where we've got that lovely necklace, that was the gift to her, crop off just above that on the left-hand image to show a little bit more of the breast below on the left. Whereas the image on the right-hand side, I don't think we need to actually change much. I would have encouraged the photographer to drop the chin more and then actually still crop below the nose. But by dropping the chin, it would have been more of a kind of a psychological thought. Remember to get your questions in, guys, as we go. We'll do them at the end, yeah? These two shots, very, very similar, but I absolutely love the sex appeal of the image on the left-hand side. I think that image outweighs the image on the right-hand side by a mile. It seems that the left hand, and we've got a crop at the elbow now, almost looks very, very strange. It kind of knocks the balance off. And again, as far as the animation is concerned, just by the simple dropping of the hands on the left-hand image, we can see that there tends to be a little bit more of a sexiness kind of going on, this kind of implied edginess, as well as the image on the left, because the photographer has either turned the model or they have moved the camera's position just around about a foot, but they're kind of shooting through the leg more on the left-hand side, which I prefer. And because of the netting is so strong, I think shooting from the lower camera angle, as we see on the image on the left, really does work here. I think if we didn't have the netting and all we had was a kind of a thong, the image on the left-hand side would have been too erotic for many clients to actually buy. Again, there's the percentage that would, of course. Oh, wrong button. Next shot here, I kind of like the edge of the bed image. I would prefer to burn out more, in fact, expose more for the back and allow the detail of the netting to burn through. I think this would have been a much, much better image if they had lost the kind of almost dress it feels like around her. I don't think it's doing anything. And I think even just the veil back on would have actually really, really been a much, much stronger image. But I do like the pose. I like that they've taken the weight off the butt to actually give that kind of little bit more shape and so on with it. Image on the right hand side, I like it. I don't mind the feet up onto the bed. It's almost kind of one of those classic shots that we see time and time again. With a hand on the tummy from this distance, it always reminds me more of a maternity shoot than it does a boudoir image, especially when there's kind of a dress on. I would much prefer the hand furthest away from camera position, sorry, to be a lot more suggestive or out of shot. Otherwise, it's fine. The last thing, even though I like the legs, I would prefer the front leg visible to us to be the one that is higher up. That would be then a lot kind of more, well, it would exaggerate the length of the leg and it would look great. Next shot here, I quite like the image on the left-hand side. Once more, though, we've got no shape of the bust, and that could have been doing with just a squeezing of the arms together to cross the hands across the waist. We would have created a fuller bust then. I'm not a massive fan of her looking back towards me. Looks a bit severe, in fact, really. Image on the right-hand side, I quite like, but I think the dress could have been pulled up more because she does have pants on as well. I think we could have used that a little bit more applied. And once more, you can see what I mean about that hand on the belly. It's not really doing anything. Remember, as a rule of thumb, use the two middle fingers and the thumb together to give you a lot more shape of the actual kind of hand as well with it. Shot here, I think the image on the left-hand side, if she'd looked away from camera position, and if she'd, so that would give us a faceless image, and if she'd used the hand not as cropped as we see this left arm, it just looks like she hasn't got a lower arm, and it just looks a little bit strange. But I'm loving the shape of the legs, I'm loving the butt shot there, even with all the kind of the dress on. Image on the right, again, I think we've kind of covered that before and things really. It just feels a little bit flat on. Love the image on the left-hand side, especially as it's for kind of bridal boudoir with it and things. I don't think you need to just show all of the images that are boudoir. I'm loving the way that we're using the headdress, the necklace and so on. The image on the right-hand side, I would have loved a lot more if we could have just pushed the boobs together just a touch, just to actually create that the cleavage more. Both shots here, I think, are not as good as they first feel like in camera, and we've kind of discussed a lot of it. I would say the titillation part of the image on the left-hand side is just between the legs, we can see a little piece of the pant, and that is a suggestive, and I do like that. But I think the dress once more is kind of dominating, but the hand on the belly on both of the images, I don't think is doing anything for her at all. Once more, the hand on the belly is back again on the left-hand image. I don't mind the kind of looking down the kind of the barrel, but in the high angle you've done, you've stunted the length of the whole body because of your angle. Go a little bit lower, a little bit wider angle lens, and it would have been good. Image on the right hand side I quite like as the voyeur. I think if she'd been looking down, adjusting the lingerie or the dress or whatever it would be, just a little bit more, I think that would have been a much stronger image again. Loving both of these images. They're both workable, to be honest. The only thing I would say is that the image on the right hand side needs a little bit better expression, and looking down a little bit more, a little bit of a smile to the face, and a little bit more control of this front hand to rotate it around. Image on the left hand side looks a bit scared bunny in the headlights now, as it were. The expression is doing that. And again, once more, even though the heels are good, there's no sexiness because this front leg is really, really straight. Would have been much better to have actually put all the weight on the left leg, the far leg, and allowed this other leg to be the show leg, as it were, and things. But it's mainly her expression and the arm and the stance that I'm not a fan of. Image on the right hand side, then basically it's acceptable. I would have just used something like 1.8 to have basically shot through and made out of focus the bedhead more. Image on the left, again, a bit rabbit in the headlight for me, especially with the pose and the animation of the hands and things. Really, it's just a little bit kind of scared. The back of the hand is never going to be a good thing with it, and I would just use a piece of the netting from the headdress to give the hand something to do more than anything else. In the same way, the image on the right hand side, we're almost there. I just think the photographer hasn't paid attention enough to the hands, but otherwise I'm loving the lighting, I'm loving the colouring, the tea bag staining that's going on here. I think the image, so the image on the right hand side, I definitely prefer the framing and the use of the wider aperture to throw it out more. I like that. Image on the left hand side, I think if we cropped off the bottom of the image, so just below the belly button, I think if we cropped that off, we'd have a better, stronger photograph. I'm loving the left-hand image. I'm just not loving her looking at me. I think she'd been looking down to her hand with the veil in. It would have been a lot more believable. And in the same way, the image on the right-hand side doing exactly the same thing, and obviously increasing the exposure then to kind of bleach out a little bit more the highlight. Been lucky, I think, with such a small-breasted client. You've been lucky with the window light has given you a cleavage each time, but you need to emphasize that a little bit more. Loving the sexiness of the image on the left-hand side. Not sure about the claw hand coming over the hip, but I do like the leg position. That works really well and where she looks from. For me, the image on the right-hand side, lighting is too flat on her. We're seeing that again here with these images. And again, so you can see, I think they've just used a pop-up background in the window set to add the pink. So I love that idea. I think that's great. But for me, the lighting is just a little bit too flat. And we haven't really shaped her. I would shoot against the light a little bit more. I think from here you can see the difference in unreal posing. So the image on the left-hand side, they've realized that we should have had the shoes on perhaps, but look, there's no pose or animation going on with the hands or the feet. Then we look at the image on the right-hand side, and then she's doing something down near the foot, but she's not looking down towards it. When she's not looking down towards it, basically it just doesn't complete the storytelling element, which is just a bit of a shame. And again, you've just got to watch with the pushing forward of the boobs here and pushing out of the butt, that it doesn't look like she's kind of breaking wind, because that can really look kind of quite funny and things really. Like the image on the left-hand side, right-hand image just feels a little bit fake. Looks a little bit like in early 80s, I joined a camera club again, just before I opened up the studio. And for no other reason, but I love photography and I love being around others who were invested in photography. I was working for a photographer at the time, and basically that was all commercial photography. I was shooting a bit on the side as well and everything else. But again, I wanted a little bit more fun in my photography. So as I said, I rejoined a camera club, and basically every other 2 or 3 weeks we used to have a kind of a beginner model in to shoot things really. And the image on the right hand side would pretty much what I'd expect to see from the other photographers with little or no experience in photography when they're trying to animate and control a subject with it. So it is just kind of really controlling the leg, either crossing the ankles with it, all the way on one foot. But the kind of the faking here of the hands, just to relax, is the key. Is the key thing with it. Image on the left hand side, pretty much perfect, to be honest. I'm loving that we've just got that little bit of gap through the leg. That little bit of light really does add to her. Now, not all women's shapes will be able to show that anyway. And I'm not going to ask a client to open a leg a little bit to try and get it. It's either naturally there or it's not. It's as simple as that with it. But I'm loving that pose on the left-hand side. I would actually use that image if I was the photographer to kind of promote my boudoir bridal photography without any trouble. Image on the right-hand side, I absolutely love her expression. And I actually really love the camera angle and the start of the pose. Again, it is so almost there. It just needs a little bit of a kind of a slight reanimation of the hands to kind of make them a little bit more kind of sexy, especially the one hand. I think the left-hand hand, so as we look at her on the right, the one that's actually cut off at the kind of the stump of the knuckles, as it were, that hand I think should have been used to the bra strap or the neckline or whatever it would be, just to kind of add that lovely little interaction of doing something with it. I'd like the way we're almost seeing the pant line as well. I think the photographer has given enough kind of an almost image to kind of want the viewer to kind of see more. It definitely has a suggestion with it, which I really, really love. Image on the left-hand side hasn't worked as well as you can see. Obviously, they just leaned her against the actual photographic cupboard now. And again, it's got almost the same ingredients now, but now it doesn't have a reason. It's kind of not kind of real. The image on the right-hand side, I think in black and white, a little bit more tone, would have looked a lot more real and things really. But again, we just don't want it to look like a client is a hooker. That's the worst thing that we can actually do. So be aware of when you're kind of putting that kind of heel against the wall, that you're not kind of going down that route and things really. It's all about the celebration of woman, celebration of their femininity, celebration of their body, celebration of who they are, and the celebration of their sensuality as well. So I didn't use the word sexuality there at all. We don't need to do that. It'll either be suggested or it'll naturally come through. And then once more, just the last two images, again, a little bit very flat on and very, very profile. And again, the image on the left-hand side, just a bit of a shame. We're not really controlling with body arms. We can control the arms to create the cleavage, to create the body and so on with it. And again, this dress has been worn throughout the whole shoot. And it's a really great dress as far as implied is concerned. And the over kind of arm kind of dressing gown kind of thing as well really, really works. But for me, neither of them are really sensual enough, because we're on the left-hand image, we're too flat, and then on the right-hand image, we're not showing enough. As far as we're not showing enough leg or bottom or whatever it is, there's no suggestion really to anything, which is just a shame. But I thought these kind of looking at workshop images and what different photographers have submitted is a good way to actually kind of start to analyze things. So as we kind of talked about before, it's really down to you about how you're going to celebrate the subject in front of you, but don't everybody with the same brush. If we can kind of get to know who and what the client is beforehand, it really helps us, and especially just seeing their type of lingerie that they usually kind of wear on a night out, or their perfect lingerie would be, and so on. Get to know that client just a little bit more, like we were talking about on the likes of the agent provocateur. So from here as well, I mean, there was an image I wanted to come back to. I mean, you can see here that, again, for some clientele, they are really going to want to kind of almost do open leg kind of thing, but not in a pornographic sense, but just in this real Instagram kind of celebrity element. I love in the likes of the ring flash or the shadow actually on to the body. We got good kind of kicking out the hip. I don't like, remember, these are images that the people have done themselves in one way or another. I don't like the actual hands actually onto the body at all. I'm loving this girl. It's a great kind of shape here. You can see how it's a real celebration of the thigh though. And again, getting to know and look at the body shape. We don't want to kind of be put off with it. And, you know, we're looking at lingerie here that's probably worth close to 400 quid. So again, just going into cover over the nipple or whatever it would be. It depends if it's for an Instagram usage or not. But again, you shouldn't have to worry about it actually on the day itself. Again, like in the image here, how they've done the suggestion, they're using the pillow like we showed before, but in this case to actually hide the crotch. So again, going through it, you can see how she's applied her own kind of hearts for the Instagram kind of usage. So the kind of the agent provocateur stuff really does have some kind of real evocative kind of images. There's one image I want to actually show you of a girl in a window. There we go. If you've been kind of watching our kind of series that we've been doing over the past few weeks on the Photographer Academy, we've kind of building these very, very small sets to kind of create this almost French kind of lovely light and everything else with it and things really. And again, when I saw that image, when I was preparing for today, it really kind of made me kind of celebrate it. I only wish that we had that kind of balustrade and everything else and blah, blah, blah. But that is a lovely, lovely image and great with all the sheerness and kind of going through. So use the likes of, as I said, the agent provocateur as an idea for your clients as well as for you of what they like and things. Okay, guys, so question time. I've only got a few here, so if you have got any more, get them into the question panel now. One from David, two from David, in fact. Does the presence of tattoos or piercings affect posing, shooting, and lighting as such? There's sometimes in piercings really need to be emphasized. It's a part of them. So it's not for us to hide or distract, but it can, if you're using very hard light and you've got the likes of a belly button piercing and it's quite a large kind of jewelry in there, then it can actually create a very, very strange shadow. So be aware of that. As far as the tattoos are concerned, no, if I'm doing a skin and ink style of shoot, basically, which is obviously to celebrate the tattoo, I definitely don't want to bleach out the tattoos as much as, you know, I'm thinking about the tattoo as much as I am about the boudoir image. But the boudoir and the celebration of the body is number one. Number two is celebration of the tattoo itself. So I'm not going to just go to a kind of a bland or a kind of a flat lighting on the figure just to actually celebrate the tattoo itself and things. How can you make most of small breasts? Again, using the likes of the biceps or the arms to just push together, crossing the arms, crossing the hands, and basically that will create an exaggerated cleavage anyway. Whatever you do is create shape, no matter what size bust they have. It was one of the kind of the to-dos, as it were, to make sure you control the bust. And that includes a smaller bust as well with it and things. Again, a woman with a very small bust usually wants a slightly fuller one. And again, I wouldn't ask that out loud. I would naturally shoot a variety, but I would naturally enhance the boob to create that cleavage as such. Really, you can usually tell if they're using kind of push-up bras and everything else to really put the cleavage, or put in the breast under quite a lot of strain to actually push the fleshiness towards the top of the bra more and things really. But that's just actually how you kind of see what lingerie they're bringing in. With the girl that we just saw in the workshop, she's got quite a small breast. When she's flat. So when she sat, knelt, stood, the breast has more of a kind of a teardrop shape. So that will actually naturally enhance itself, but then a control of the body, arms and so on will enhance that more. Could I show the previous slide again, the don'ts? Yeah. So don't shoot the pout, all right? I'm not here to do selfies. At all. Okay, that's for them in their own mirror and everything else with it. Don't shoot. Don't forget to prepare them for the shoot styles. So, for instance, in my getting ready for the session, I wouldn't even mind heading them across towards the agent provocateur Instagram with the tagged images and things really, to actually kind of celebrate how some women are seeing themselves. And it's so easy to do a screenshot and share those with us on the day, so we get to actually know exactly what you like and things really. Don't just bring bra and pants. Lingerie to some women is bra and pants, all right? That's it. So what we want to do is make sure that we're discussing the things about bodies, whatever it is. We decided with Kelsey that the posing guides that we were doing, we're just going to use a simple body. And even that I've fallen in love with more than ever before. And not so much a sheer one, in fact, a plain white one. We used it in the pool shoot. I'm not sure if you've seen that yet. That's on the Academy and on our YouTube channel. But that went sheer, and I'd forgotten stupidly that white kind of goes sheer straight away as soon as it's wet and things really. And I don't really want to do a wet t-shirt kind of styling as such, because that goes back to the 1980s Sun kind of Playboy kind of imagery. However, we're seeing more and more of it across all the Instagram kind of celebrations now and things really. Don't forget to get creative. That is a discussion that I want to have with the girl and with me. I need to tell her, look, during the shoot, probably towards the end, I want us to have a real fun. I want us to get a little bit kind of nutty and things, if that's all right with it. We'll just see how it goes. But then just in that last 15 minutes, forget you and almost trying to put a persona. So like you're a bit of an actress, whether you're a Marilyn Monroe or a Kylie Jenner, just go into that little bit of a fantasy figure, and I'll basically kind of create a little bit more edgy of the lighting and so on with it. Don't forget to encourage and compliment. I cannot emphasize that enough across all clients. Obviously, as a almost 60-year-old fat man, the last thing I can do is really kind of say the wrong terminology to a young woman. So I have to pick and choose my words very carefully, but my job is to make her feel great without sounding like a perv. That's very, very important to me. In fact, when I've had women photographers shoot alongside me in kind of workshops and everything else with it, they compliment me quite a lot on how direct I am. So I'm more of a director and kind of, oh my God, your butt looks good in that. Just move your leg a little bit higher. So it's a compliment followed by an instruction. And that's a real nice thing to do. You can get a little bit of you might feel a little bit embarrassed. You might, especially in the early days, especially if you haven't been used to photographing people in lingerie. It can be exactly the same with men, can I say as well, all right? So when you're photographing your very first male nude, whether you're a female photographer or a male photographer, it's exactly the same as photographing your first the female nude or in lingerie with it. There's things that you kind of really don't know what to say or how to explain and so on. And obviously that's where the kind of the confidence and the experience comes in. Don't forget to ask them who they follow on Instagram. That really, really is important for you to go and have a look at, because then it gives you a good idea on what they are celebrating and what they're not celebrating as well. And don't forget to ask about their partner's likes and dislikes, or really what they love about them. I don't ask about the dislikes really, but they'll usually kind of say that, oh, they really like my butt, but they're not a fan of my neck. It's like, okay, let's shoot more of the neck then and celebrate. And no, I don't do that. But anyway, that gives that. What if the choice of lingerie is not really working? I would say you haven't done your job in preparing the client for it then. We do have a few of the sheer robes. Let me just jump onto Academy for a minute. So if we look at the kind of the films that we've gone live, so in other words, we've got the white sheet to nude kind of film has just gone live there. We've got the boutique the Boudoir pillow roll. These were actually shot over a year ago. That's how slow they are to get to Academy. That's what kind of shooting a lot of this stuff now. Then you've got the fur coat and accessories. Doesn't look like they're actually putting any of the new stuff live. The boutique white sheet flow. That's 12 months ago. The dynamic lighting for Boudoir as well. You're actually not seeing any of the new stuff. I'm going to do a real nag of them to actually get some of the actual new films live quicker, because we're filming about 4 to 5 shoots a day anytime we can. So on a Wednesday, as it were, plus our live. So again, we'll try and get those visible. But as far as what lingerie choice, I would go back to the shooting and styling part 1 of this, as well as number 5 of what to wear, to really kind of discuss with the client. But we do have a dressing for success that we actually created for the experience group. In fact, it's not something that I can give out through Academy. Look, that's all our questions there. I hope you've enjoyed today, guys. Thanks for joining me live. Be good to actually see a yes for if you've enjoyed it, or a no if you haven't. I don't mind. I'll take it on the chin. Straight into the question panel, if you could. And we're back next week for the last in this series of the sales room. So this is the Academy Business Live Boudoir, of course, where we're talking about the 10 steps. And we're doing the last part, which is obviously the sales room, where we're going to be looking at how and what to sell to the actual client as well, with things ready. Thanks for joining me live. I'll see you on the next one. Remember, this week on Academy Live at 5, I am shooting. What are we shooting this week? Oh, it doesn't say. Let me check on my planner board. Where's my planner board gone? It's just got moved. I think we're shooting a kind of fashion sheet image. So it's like an implied nude. Yeah, it's basically the silk shoot and implied nude. That's what we're shooting live at 5. So join us on the YouTube channel. But remember, we've got a whole host of webinars running live this week as well with it. Thanks, boys and girls. See you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.